Hello and welcome to Inside Modular, the podcast of commercial modular construction brought to you by the Modular Building Institute. Today's episode is also brought to you by the Offsite Construction Expo, sponsored by the Modular Building Institute. Visit offsiteconstructionexpo.com today to join industry speakers, exhibitors, and attendees for the next virtual expo of 2020, this time aimed at the East Coast and Mid-Atlantic regions on November 18th. Now anyone can attend for only $199. Register today at offsiteconstructionexpo.com. Welcome everyone, my name is John McMullen and I'm the Marketing Director here at MBI. Today I'm joined by R.C. Alley, partner at AO Architects in Los Angeles. R.C. is here to talk about designing for modular construction and, in particular, how modular buildings are a perfect solution for the nation's affordable housing dilemma. R.C., thanks for being on today.
Thank you, John, for inviting me.
Tell me about yourself, R.C. What got you interested in architecture, and how long have you been designing?
Well, I'm a second-generation architect. My father practiced in Chicago. He worked for Mies van der Rohe. So I was always around architecture. Even though they moved to New Mexico, which is where I was born and raised, I've always been around architecture, and particularly around more contemporary, mid-century modern buildings. So it was just something that was seated in me from the get-go. I would say I also have, that's kind of what my ingrained skills are, my skill sets are. I don't know if I could do anything other than being an architect. That's just because that's how I'm wired.
Gotcha. And so tell me about AO. You're based just outside of Los Angeles, is that right?
Yes, we're in actually Orange County, which is about 30 miles south of Los Angeles.
Okay.
And we've been around. The firm was founded in 1974 by my partner, Jack Selman. He's still the senior partner here. It was him and another gentleman. There were two of them, and they started the firm initially as a retail firm. And as it grew, we're located actually in the city of Orange, which is central Orange County. And as the firm grew, they added disciplines. So they went from retail and then started doing industrial work, started doing then larger retail projects. We do factory outlet center work all around the world now. We're about 270 people in size, and we are the largest firm in Orange County. Of the 270 people, about 130 of them are in my team, which is the multifamily and mixed-use team. And we're very busy. It's interesting. My team started with me. I had been here working for the retail division. I came here in 1989. I left for a couple of years, and I came back. I went to a firm where I learned multifamily. I came back here to do one apartment project. So the multifamily division at that time was me. I would design them, I would do the drawings on them, and I would do the field work on them. And as we continued to grow, and we evolved as a firm, but even as a group, my whole team evolved. And so now we do work all over the Western U.S. That's what my team does, just because we like to limit our travel time. But I have partners that do work all around the world.
That's quite a bit of growth. That's impressive. So has AO been designing modular buildings for a long time, or is that a relatively new avenue for you?
Well, it's something that we've been keenly interested in particular between the multifamily team and our hospitality team for more than 10 years. It's been part of our think tank efforts. And so I'd say 10 years or more we've been interested in it. But our real project, our first project that solidified was about 6 years ago on the hospitality side, where we built a project in Hawthorne, which is just south of LA. The other thing that's interesting is because my team does a lot of affordable housing, we have relationships with affordable housing groups, and in particular, the Pacific companies is one of our main clients. That's led by a gentleman named Caleb Roop, and he has a particular interest in modular projects. He's been doing them for more than 15 years, and so it was a great marrying of his interest in modular and affordable projects and our interest in modular and affordable projects. So he really gave us our first significant opportunity to do modular projects. what was interesting with working with him is he's very passionate about it to the point where he has built his own modular factory now, Autovol, up in Idaho. So we've had a lot of opportunity to be very involved in developing the systems and the design parameters that are coming out of his factory right now.
Cool. Well, he sounds like a great future guest. I'll have to find a way to track him down.
I think he would be a good one for you.
Thank you. What are the advantages you see in designing for modular construction?
So there's a bunch of them. A lot of them have to do with speed to market, weather conditions. If you're building in an environment that has a short duration for the summer months, like maybe Idaho, for instance. But we're really seeing them on the affordable project if there are labor challenges with just labor constraints in the market. It really helps alleviate some of those challenges. And so we're very optimistic about the continued evolution and acceptance of modular projects in the market.
For those unfamiliar, is designing for modular much different than designing for traditional buildings?
Absolutely. It's very, very different. I would say, first of all, it takes a very disciplined approach to really design it. You have to really understand the technology behind the product. You have to understand if you're doing, you have to understand what the constraints are in the factory in terms of length. You have to understand all the challenges with transporting the modules, how the buildings are assembled. You have to really be committed to it. And that's what I really tell clients right off the bat. If you're going to do a modular project, first of all, you need to understand it, which means you need to walk some projects. You need to go to the factory and understand what those are about, and understand even some of the utilitarian aspects of it. But and if you're committed, you really have to be committed to do it. If you're doing a podium project, of course that's field built. The podium component has to be built in the field. But everything above it can be modular. So if you're going to do it, I tell clients, if you're going to do a modular project, you have to really be committed to do a modular. You can't do it partially modular and partially field built, especially in the areas that it could actually be built in a factory.
So I'm going to switch gears on you just a little bit. I know affordable housing is a big interest of yours. What can you tell me about the housing situation in LA?
Boy, that's a good question. LA is its own animal, of course. Right now there's about, if any of the information you read tells you that there's a housing shortage in LA of 400,000 to 500,000 units. There's significant challenges with homeless and just a need for housing in general. So there's a big demand there, and there's also there's certainly a large desire to do housing in LA, but it's just challenging. It's in California. Some things have occurred over the last year or several years that have really helped push housing projects forward, especially affordable housing, which is what a lot of our modular projects are. The Senate Bill SB 1818, which is state density bonus law. There's Senate Bill 330, and that's really the Housing Crisis Act of 2019. There's Senate Bill, Assembly Bill 2345, which is to alleviate housing shortages. There's a whole ton of Senate bills and Assembly bills that are really designed to help with housing, and primarily in more urban locations. So we're starting to see a very significant interest in modular projects in LA, and mostly again on the affordable side.
So why have you decided to focus so much of your time on affordable housing?
Well, a bunch of reasons. First of all, we think it's good business to be diverse. So we don't just do affordable housing. We do market rate housing. We do student housing. We do senior housing. So all of those within kind of the multifamily arena. But affordable housing is something that's very interesting to me, for a lot of reasons. Part of it is, just giving back as part of it. And so we have really, we've always had the idea that we can design and build affordable projects that from the perimeter and from the outside look no different than the luxury housing project right next door to it. And we take great pride in that. We've done some very fantastic projects up in Oakland and San Jose that are just coming online right now that are affordable projects. In Oakland, they're modular and affordable, and San Jose, they'll be modular and affordable as well. But it's a passion of mine and my team. So we've been very fortunate to have some just great opportunities and just great clients who have the desire to build very nice, affordable projects.
Well, I have to imagine that's a very welcome thing in LA right now, so that's fantastic. What challenges have you faced with the affordable housing projects you've worked on?
There are lots of challenges. I'd say probably one of the big ones that we initially run into, especially if we're doing an affordable project in a city that's really never had affordable projects, or in the past may have even had roadblocks up for multifamily projects in their entirety. The cities, they're just not experienced at it. So they're either concerned and afraid, what is an apartment, or what is a affordable project going to look like? Because I think back to the projects that may have been built, affordable projects were built 30 or 40 years ago, and those projects weren't designed to the quality of projects that we're doing today. And so they look historically at older projects as a kind of a yardstick, when in reality what we're proposing and doing are very different animals from that. So that's a challenge from the entitlement standpoint. Then, even as I just talked about, some of the Assembly bills and Senate bills, those are very specialized, and most cities don't have a firm grasp on those and what the entitlement rights that our developers have by utilizing the state laws. And so there's always an educational process. And then, of course, they're very concerned, what does it look like? And, again, we can design a project that has just a fantastic, it has a high quality, just fantastic appearing, aesthetically pleasing project. And once we've seen that the cities, once they start to see what we're doing, and they start to realize, wow, it is really going to be a great project, and nobody's going to really know that it's an affordable project. That really lessens the resistance that we get. One of the things in California that's been a big help to us are the RHNA numbers, the Regional Housing Needs Assessment numbers, where the state has assigned a certain number of units that have to be built, new units that need to be built in cities, and most cities are not meeting those standards currently. So because of that has opened doors to cities that in the past would have just said, no, we don't want that project.
So in hearing this answer and the past couple of answers, it seems very clear you value good design. You have a diverse portfolio. From a modular design perspective, what makes an affordable multi-housing project different than a more expensive project?
It's interesting. A lot of it is programmed. So an affordable project, multifamily housing project, will have some, because of the state density bonus laws and Assembly bills laws, will have a lower parking ratio, for instance. And by utilizing those laws, you may not have as much open space, or your setbacks may be slightly tighter. But those are really very minor and generally very cosmetic and are not very obvious. If we're doing our job right, again, as I said earlier, a project, if it was sitting next to a market rate project, shouldn't look different. I mean, it should be aesthetically should be very similar to it. And some of maybe the bigger changes, or maybe again some of the programming or some of the finishes inside the units. The units are going to be a little bit smaller, but they're still super livable. I mean, that's something that we really focus on any project. And the modules that we've developed with Caleb's company, we've modeled those things three-dimensionally, walked through them, so we really understand how the spaces work. So even though it's tighter, it still can be furnished well, still has all the appliances and everything that a standard market rate project would have. But the unit may be a little bit smaller, and some of the amenities may not be as significant. It may not have like a bowling alley like the market rate project would have, or a pool on the roof. But but other than some of the amenities and some of the interior finishes, they're very, very similar.
Gotcha. What inspires you when you're designing?
Wow, a lot of things. Say first of all is context. Most of these projects, most of the projects we're working on, are in more urban locations, and some of them are very highly visible. So they may be on a site that was overlooked because it's adjacent to a freeway or it has close proximity to a rail line. So all of those things to me are positives because it gives me some context to pull from. So how can I do a project that along the freeway really responds to the traffic patterns that are flowing adjacent to it? Again, it's got to look rich and bold. A lot of them are gateway projects to cities, and so the cities are very, very interested in what they're going to look like. So we just finished an affordable project that was a gateway to the city of Santa Ana, and it has a fantastic mural on it. So when you're driving, it's right next to the freeway, but you drive into the city, and it's an A project. You would never know it was an affordable project, and it's got a mural that's 40 feet tall and 20 feet wide. Wow. And the context really inspires me. But I also say understanding the technology of modular projects. How do I use the parameters of it? Of a modular unit, for instance, and how do I create an interesting building with a really articulated facade? And it's understanding how does the technology of the modular product work so that you can do something that's very interesting. And I find it very challenging and it's very enjoyable.
Is there a recent project that you're particularly proud of?
Absolutely. There's a project that we're doing right now called Virginia Studios, and it's being installed right now. It's in San Jose, and it's kind of how I just described to you. It was a little triangular piece that was between a freeway and an off-ramp and two adjacent streets. So it had hair all over it, which I find super interesting because it makes a project fun. And when we got it, it had been originally designed as a conventional build project. And our client said, you know what, we want to do this as a modular project. It's already entitled and approved as a conventional project, so it has to kind of look the same. So we redesigned it as a modular project, and we didn't just say, hey, we're going to build it. We essentially kind of scrapped it and started over. We kept the overall building shape the same, but we added all the discipline of a modular project to the design. It's a neat project. I'm super excited to get it up and get it occupied. And right now they're at the podium level, so they've done the on-site concrete work, and the modules have just come out of the plant. That was actually the first. That was our first modular project that came out of the Autovol plant, and so now it's in the process of being installed. So I have a whole laundry list of projects, but I think that's just kind of my current most interesting project. I say. And you'll probably ask me next week, and I'll have a different one.
That sounds really cool. I hope that with the story behind it, that it started out as traditional, it switched over to modular, sort of after the fact. That'd be a great case study. If that's something you want to share with us, we could certainly put that on our website and make some noise about it. That sounds like a really cool project.
I'd be happy to do that. That's actually one of two sister projects that we've done that on, where it was a designed and entitled project, and then our client said, you know what, we want to do it as modular. And it's the smaller of the two. The larger one is actually in Oakland, and it's getting ready to be occupied right now.
Great.
And again, really trying to understand how to apply a disciplined approach to a design that maybe didn't have that discipline initially. And I'd be happy to show you those case studies.
Yeah, please do.
I think you'll find them very interesting.
Yeah, let us know when they're ready. I'd love to see that. Switch gears again. You very much value creating relationships and collaborating on projects. Why is that so important to you?
Well, that's interesting. That's also an interesting question. Really, relationships are part of the DNA of AL. As an architect, we're a service provider. We don't build anything. We don't make anything. We provide a service, a design service. And so we do, relationships with our clients and with our consultant teams are very important to us. Very rarely do we do a one-off project with a client or a consultant for that matter. I always tell a client that our first project with them is going to be the toughest because we're learning them and they're learning us. And so if we've made it over that hump, then we've established a relationship with them. And once we have that relationship again with the client and the team, the next one's easier. They just get a little simpler, even on a complicated project. And we're all here, we're all working, but we all enjoy what we do. And it's great when we're in a collaborative effort and our clients, you can tell they have a passion for it. Mm-hmm. And it just makes a project so much more interesting to work on. And so we cultivate our relationships very, very dearly.
Are there any tips or best practices that you follow for collaborating?
Wow. Well, with our clients, a lot of it is, just collaborating through understanding the process. I'd say probably the more interesting tips would be maybe on the consultant side. For instance, when we're producing a project, we do everything, it's all done in Revit, which is basically electronically modeling the project. Mm-hmm. And we host everything up on the cloud, BIM 360. So our entire team is working collaboratively on this electronic model at the same time. And what we found is that effort, because essentially we're creating a shop drawing to build these modules with. And if everybody is in tune and collaborating and working well together, we're going to have a successful project. And so it's all about communication and collaboration to make sure that works and to make sure that it comes out smoothly.
Speaking of collaborations and affordable housing, I've heard that you're working on an idea with Horizon North, which is another MBI member of ours up in Canada. What can you tell me about that project?
Oh, it's actually a real fun project. It's really more of a case study project. We've worked with Reese Kane mm-hmm. and his team at Horizon North, and we've developed a product. We call it T-Mod, and it's really based on something that they've done in Canada, where they are creating a temporary and transitional modular housing projects. And their projects in Canada are just spectacular. And so they wanted to bring that to the States. And it's a very, the intent is it's a temporary housing solution that can be deployed very, very quickly. So they had already developed a lot of the technology. We've worked with them to modify it to work with what we can do in the U.S. and in California in particular. And we then did a case study where we've done a couple case studies, but one that we published where we compared this solution, this rapid deployment solution, rapid response solution, to a bridge program project in Hollywood. And that's where basically they took for temporary housing solution, they took a lot. And in that case, they built a membrane structure, or essentially kind of a large tent. Mm-hmm. And we understood the costs on that were published. So we did a whole analysis with our product, if we, what the cost per unit would be with our project, with our product type. And we would be providing really more, standard type of housing units, studio type of units, but each one with their own, own kitchen, their own bathroom, but it could be rapidly deployed. And it doesn't have to be there permanently. It could be there for 5 years. It could be there for 10 years. It could be there for a shorter amount of time. It can be dismantled. It could be moved to another location. It has a temporary foundation system. And so, again, we did the case study just really to understand, could we supply the same number of units on a half-acre site as the membrane structure? And we were able to basically provide many more, almost double the amount of beds. But it's a more permanent solution than a tensor membrane structure. And we then also compared it to a traditional build and kind of what it would take timing-wise and cost-wise on a per bed basis. So we published that now. We're getting a lot of interest in it, especially with what's going on in LA.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm actually talking to Reese on our next podcast, so I can't wait to get his perspective on that project. It sounds awesome. So congrats to you guys for
something we're very excited about it, and I can't see how any city that really is looking for a more permanent solution than a membrane structure wouldn't be all over this, because it's cost effective and it provides something that's desperately needed today.
Absolutely. And you said you've published the case study, is that right?
We published the case study, and so it's there somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where, but it's there somewhere.
Well, we'll find it. We'll share a link to it. That sounds like something a lot of people need to read.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very excited about it.
So what advice would you give to another architect looking into modular design?
Well, I've said it a couple of times, but the very first thing is understanding that it's a disciplined approach. Mm-hmm. You have to be disciplined. If you're not disciplined, not going to happen. Really need to understand, everything from the factory constraints, because you need to have a basic understanding of the sizes that they can produce in a factory, how they do it, how those modules are configured on a project to eliminate saw boxes, for instance. Understanding everything from how they're transported from the factory, because again that dictates widths, how it is stored, how are they craned onto the site. Craning is a super important component of this. Understanding where is the crane set, what are the lift points, where are the modules brought on site, and how far a crane can deploy a module onto the building. All those are super important. Getting a experienced consulting team on board, I can't say how important that is. You have to, from all the engineers, have to have a very thorough understanding of it, because it's just a different animal than a standard built project. And the modular, the modular configuration certainly dictates the site planning layouts, but also what the building can look like. Understanding how the vertical and the horizontal stitching occurs between the modular units. Mm-hmm. All of those are, there's so much to learn. I'd say, walk as many modular projects as you can. Go visit the factories, because there's certainly a lot of information on the internet, and a lot of it's good, but there's no better way to learn it than walking one.
Well, thanks so much, RC. This was great. As I mentioned, I'd like to encourage everyone to tune in next time. I'll be talking to Reese Kane at Horizon North and talking more about how modular design and construction can tackle the affordable housing crisis. My name is John McMullen, and this has been another episode of Inside Modular, the podcast of commercial modular construction. Until next time.